Thank you.
This is just absolutely beautiful, the skating rinks.
Well, I remember when we were up here.
Okay, Elaine, tell me about you. You're born?
In Lakewood, New York, and we lived a block and a half from the lake, and I grew up there from almost all my life, except for about 3 years when we lived up the lake in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we used to go to Lakewood Beach. All summer, we'd lay down there on the beach the whole summer, come home for dinner, go back down at night. In the wintertime, we went down there and we went sledding and skiing. We had the old-fashioned skis,
Mm-hmm.
where you just slide your feet into them. And then when the ice would freeze over, all the kids in Lake would go down there and go ice skating. And we'd have to bring shovels because there was so much snow, usually, unless we had a lot of wind that would blow it away. But most of the time, we'd have to shovel a rink off. But everybody helped.
Now, give me the size of the rink. Was it a sizable area?
No, it was fairly small, and enough for, you know, the town kids to go in and skate, and we just had a really good time.
Who supported it? Was it the village that you recall?
I don't think so, because the local kids are the ones that would shovel the snow off the ice.
Mm-hmm.
So, but at one time, the village did have a rink over in Packard Field,
Right.
the football field, and they had a Quonset hut, and they would freeze the field over for a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
But we used to just go down to the beach.
Now, I read someplace on a plaque they talked about how they would pipe in music.
Well, that's what my brother told me, that they would pipe in music, but I don't recall that.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, that was many years ago.
What kind of skates would you have? Did you have figures?
No, I did not have figure skates. I had racers, and they're very difficult to skate with. You know, the long blade.
Oh, yeah.
And I borrowed my sister's. She had figure skates, and I borrowed hers. And at times when she wasn't using them. But I'll tell you, those racer skates were terrible.
Now, who had the racer skates? Were those?
Those were mine. Somebody gave them to me.
Were your parents involved in skating at all?
No.
So it's
No, but our next door neighbor was.
right,
Beatrice Freet.
right.
She was our next door neighbor, and she was, I think, an ice skating champion.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just nice to know her and her family. And
Now, what was a normal season like for skating on Chautauqua?
well, usually after Christmas holiday, you could skate, and in January. Prior to that, unless it was really cold, you know, the lake wasn't frozen enough. And you have to be careful on Chautauqua Lake because there's so many little streams going into the lake.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, there's soft spots. And once in a while we get real brave and skate across.
Did you do that?
I never did, but a lot of the kids did.
This is the width-wise.
Yeah, it's quite a ways, but it gets windy out there.
That's right.
And you have to be careful. I was kind of a chicken.
Aside from what you wore as figures or as racers, were there figure skaters? I mean, did you know kids who had figure skates at the time?
Oh yeah, most of them did.
Most of them did.
Yeah, most of them had figure skates. I didn't, but most of them did, and you know, they're just amateurs having a good time.
Was it a track around it, or was it in fact one open area? Do you recall?
It was just an open area. They just, you know, would shovel it all off, and we just get out there and fool around, and it wasn't like this at all.
Right.
You know, it was just like a local pond type skating.
Did you have hours, or did you just go do it when you did it?
Oh, just whenever.
You do it at night?
No, not usually. Excuse me. No, just like Saturday and Sunday afternoon mainly.
Mm-hmm.
Unless there's a holiday.
You didn't have a moonlight couple skate you can talk about?
I don't. My sister might.
Okay. Well, that's a good segue. Let's invite her to. Come on in, Irene. Just have a seat there. This is Steve Houghton, by the way. Steve's from the Post-Journal. And I told him that we're going to be meeting some real talent here tonight.
Oh.
Can I get both of y'all's names?
Our names? I'm Elaine Card Walsh.
Can you spell Eileen?
E-L-A-I-N-E.
Irene Card Andrews. I-R-E-N-E.
Thank you.
Irene, we've been talking to your sister. And she's been talking about her racers. Did you have racers also?
No.
No? What did you use?
Well, my first pair were used, of course, in those days we were poor. And then for Christmas one year I got new ones that were figure skates.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Who taught you how to skate?
well, my dad used to do some skating years ago, but I think we mostly did it on our own,
Mm-hmm.
just for fun.
Did you remember seeing was there any skating shows, any competitions? We're going to talk to somebody later who was a barrel jumper. Was any of that kind of exhibition types?
There could have been, but we weren't involved,
Mhm.
so there could have been.
And your skating at the time, was it in Lakewood?
Mhm.
Were there other skating locations?
I believe there was, but we were only involved in the Lakewood one.
Yeah.
I think there was others on the lake.
Did the two of you guys skate a lot, or was it just kind of you'd go out, she'd go out?
Yeah.
Well, we'd all go down together and kind of meet our friends down there.
Right.
You know, the Lakewood kids, we were all kind of close-knit. And we just kind of knew everybody'd be down there skating.
Tell me about the Lakewood Beach itself. I mean, is it where it is now?
Yes.
Hasn't changed a bit.
Yeah.
And they also did skiing. They did other sports there on the hill.
Toboggan.
Ski jumping and, you know, things like that.
Right.
If you didn't have all the places you have now, not great places like this, which would be awesome if we had that now.
Well, now, many, many years ago, they used to ice skate at the yacht club, you know.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And that was run by the village, and they had music down there.
Mhm.
And Lucille Ball used to ice skate, and my mother always told us that she used to borrow her ice skates.
True story.
Yeah.
Well, one of those pictures behind us here is a picture of Lucille Ball, not in Jamestown, but a picture of Lucille Ball skating at Sun Valley.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
She probably learned it in Sauron from your mother.
yeah, could be.
Yeah. Do you have any particular incidents or funny experiences that you may have had while you were there skating in Lakewood that you can think of? Did you ever fall through the ice?
No. I just remember my brother used to skate right there where the Beechwood is.
Right?
And I know he got frozen ears one time, being out there in the cold. There's another reason it's so nice to have an indoor rink.
Was it the weather such that it really permitted long periods of time of just the lake being frozen without a lot of snow?
Yeah, it took quite a while for the lake to freeze, and then the skating period was really quite short, wasn't it?
Mhm.
I mean, 6 weeks at maybe the most. Because you'd have a winter thaw,
Yeah.
you know, and you wouldn't dare to go out.
Then, how long a period of time would you have skated on Chautauqua Lake? Do you remember? Was this
Oh,
all your
Oh, probably from 10 to 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
About,
Yeah. And then we skated on local ponds too.
Mm-hmm.
Up behind some manufacturing plants, they have a little pond, and that's where she met her husband.
Well, let's talk about that over here.
Now, we
I
skate
don't
there
know.
at night.
This is where you guys met?
No.
No, I knew a brother.
Brother, okay, you're the brother. Do we need you on this too, on ice skating? Does he have an ice skating story?
Well, he could have, I don't know.
No, not really, but the only thing I can say is, down behind at the Packard field across from the school,
Mhm.
they used to freeze that and skate there. too.
I told him,
Yeah.
we had a
At the
Quonset
fo-
hut,
Yeah,
with-
there's a football field, baseball field there.
and they had the old-fashioned pot-belly stoves in there,
Right.
one on each end, so you keep warm.
Oh, no kidding.
And there used to be I don't know if it's still there, that Quonset hut.
Right?
Yeah,
Still might be there.
I don't know.
Did they charge?
Yeah,
I think they did a small fee,
$1 or something.
but the fire department would freeze it over.
Right.
It was run by the village, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So they did that for a few years.
But
Kelly Johnson to the front
What
desk.
caused you to who took the picture that we're honoring here today? Is that your,
That's us.
it's you? I know it's you, but who took the picture?
friend,
Friend?
she's not around here anymore.
But she was ice skating with us, and you want a funny story. This girl was named Jilson Kruger, and she used to wear this one-piece red long underwear under her ski suit. Well, she would take her ski suit off and pull it down and skate around with this red underwear and embarrass everybody. She ended up being a showgirl out in Las Vegas.
That's why she's not with us.
Exhibition wasn't a problem for her, right?
But she's the one that took the picture.
Look at this, sure. Let's show the picture here. Oh my word, look at this. And explain the picture here.
Oh, we're just, I borrowed, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Go ahead.
I borrowed Irene's ice skates because they're figure skates and they're much easier to skate with. And so I was just trying to do something fancy, I guess. And she was trying to help me stay up. And Jilson snapped the picture. So we had just received these ski suits for Christmas. And we were going to go to Allegheny with a bunch of school friends skiing. And so our parents had bought us these ski suits for Christmas.
And now they'll be forever memorialized at the.
Heaven
Jamestown
knows
Skating
where they
History.
would be.
Yeah.
We
We
don't-
probably gave them away years ago.
The ski suits are gone.
Yeah.
What did you think when they called you and said, "Hey, we're going to put up this picture"?
Oh, we were excited.
Well, it was my brother and sister-in-law that called. And he says, don't you have some pictures of you ice skating on Chautauqua Lake? And I said, oh, yeah, probably somewhere. And he said, well, see if you can find them, send them to me. So I sent the one he chose, and I sent one of me just standing there posing. And I had them blown up to 8 by 10 and sent them to them, and they turned them in. And I guess a couple months went by, and we went out for dinner, and I came back, and on the answering machine, Jenny, my sister-in-law Jenny, said, call me right away, I got good news for you. And she told me that they'd chosen our picture, and I said, you gotta be kidding. And we just got so silly over this whole thing.
Fun. Fun.
And I just couldn't believe, because I'm sure they got many, many pictures. And I was just so surprised and honored.
Sure. Well, we're honored you're here. This is
Really nice.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
terrific. Well, we'll be talking a little bit further, but let's get a picture of the three of you card kids here.
Okay, Bob?
A hockey player.
Oh, yeah, I tried to call him Ramsey Riddle.
Ramsey Riddle. Holy cow, it's kind of great guy. You know, I know him so well, and I could not come up with a name. Ramsey Riddle.
I called several times, and there was no one there.
He played a lot of hockey.
Well, it's from Montreal.
Yeah. Ski jumper.
Yeah, he was Canadian ski jumping champion.
Is that right?
Yeah, he was real good at it, yeah.
All right, John, how did John Alm get interested in skating, period?
Well, we had enough winter here to do pretty well at it.
Was your parents involved in skating?
Not really.
No. And so where did you skate when you were a young kid? Was there places to skate other than the lake?
Well, when I was about 7, we skated on the outlet down where where the old brickyards used to be, if you know where that is.
No, tell me.
Well, the old brickyards is just up from Dahlstrom's. And there's a backwater where the stream went down through pretty fast and it would kick back like that. It would freeze in there and we'd skate on that. Now, if I see my kids skating, I'd get after them, but it was good skating.
Did anybody go through? You remember anybody kind of?
Oh, everyone got wet one time or another. Yeah, no end to that.
Now, when you were skating at an early age, what kind of skates did you have?
I found some in the basement of a house that we were renting.
Yep.
Yeah, they were 2 sizes or 3 sizes too big. Didn't seem to matter then.
What was it? Was it figure skates? Were they hockey skates? Were they racers?
The original skates that came out, you know, when they were first making skates with shoes, it was the only difference between a regular skate and a hockey skate was a little ridge up in the middle, so the puck couldn't go between the shoe and the blade.
Right.
And they were just like a figure skate blade. They were a solid steel, no tubular to it. And these were skates probably they could have been 100 years old.
Yeah.
Know?
Right.
But I found them and they did for a bit. And then I actually shoveled snow and earned enough money to get a pair of speed skates, which everyone wore here was speed skates. I suppose it's more the Scandinavian heritage that brought the speed skates in.
So was there competitive skating, speed skating at the time? And where would the races have been held?
Yeah, most of our speed skating was done on Roseland Park.
Mm-hmm.
Now there was some done on the lake, but it was, you know, hit and miss there.
Right.
Bob Hanson could tell you more about what was done on the lake.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So your initial foray into skating was really through speed skating?
Yeah, that's really very seldom you've seen a hockey skate.
Right.
You see a few figures, even the girls were speed skating. Everyone was speed skating.
Now, as far as inland skating areas, where would you go? You mentioned Roseland.
Yeah, they did a real good job on the local rinks. I hand them all the credit in the world because it isn't easy.
Right.
And Roseland Park is a situation where it was extremely hard. They had a big rink, and you would get sun all day long, which is tough on making ice. And they did get enough wind across there to help. That helps a lot too.
Right.
They did an excellent job. They had a rig set up where they had a brush and then a plow. And the brush would kick it out and the plow would push the large mountains. I think it was a Model A type arrangement. It was quite unique. I'm sure they made it. You couldn't buy something like that.
Right, right.
And the city did a real good job.
What other locations in the city were there ice rinks?
Well, you had up at Allen Park too, on the tennis court. And they would get ice before Roseland would.
Right.
And then they'd keep it longer, but they didn't have the size. And then with speed skating, size was really important.
So Allen Park was smaller than Roseland?
Yeah. Yeah, they had better conditions for getting ice, and, but then it would get smaller as the snow came.
Oh, sure.
Snow would build up on the sides.
Was the fact that Allen Park was clay courts, did that make a difference?
Oh, I think it did, yeah. And then the altitude makes a difference, and the wind makes an awful difference.
Right.
If you get a breeze across ice, it'll freeze real quick.
So that's where you guys would competitively speed skate. Did they have
Yeah.
city championships?
Well, we used to have the Great Lakes champion in Jamestown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it drew tremendous crowds. Just to watch it, they'd sit in the snowdrift and watch speed skating go on.
Now, how long did you do that?
I suppose I started when I was probably 10. And then we had a few winters where it didn't really freeze well. In fact, the lake froze up one winter and then thawed out. This is how bad it was. Never refroze. Then you sort of lose out on those years, probably 3-4 years, right, when I was 16, 17, 18, around in there. And, but I skated right up till then, and then I skated a little later on too. But it didn't really get too, you just didn't have the time when you're working and such to give it all the effort it takes.
You're sort of known as the godfather of hockey around here. How did John Alm get involved in hockey?
Well, we all had sticks when we were kids, and we'd play on the street quite often. The street, they wouldn't use any salt in those days, so it'd get all iced over. We'd fool around the streets.
So where was the street? Where did you live?
Well, I lived on Thayer Street, is where I did the most of it. It was the flat area of the street where it's pretty level all ways. And lost a tooth. Yeah. It's bound to happen.
Well, you're supposed to do that in hockey, aren't you?
You're right. Yeah.
Now, did you play? Was there organized teams at that time?
No, it was just a bunch of kids with sticks and going out there. And as we got older, we would. Well, one time we were down on the salary fields, but they wouldn't let us on the rinks with sticks, and I can see their point. And it wasn't really a game that they knew much about either. So we didn't. One time we played an Erie group on Rosen Park,
Mm-hmm.
but it was sort of a disaster because it didn't have any boards or anything like that. And but in general, we would find ponds or lakes, salary fields. One place is quite unique because it would flood in the fall and freeze,
Right.
and then as the water was cold and it wouldn't be as much water, it would make a bowl. So you're skating in a bowl. And that was great fun. But the snow is a big problem.
Right.
You had to shovel it off. It was a lot of work.
When did you move out to your farm?
Well, I bought it when I was 24.
Mm-hmm.
And the barn was on the verge of collapsing. And so I thought, well, I'll had to hold it up. Fell down, it'd be a heck of a mess to clean up. So I decided I'd put a rink in there. Worked out pretty good.
Tell me about the rink.
Well, the surprising thing is how well known it got internationally. I didn't see it. It was right up in the Toronto paper one time, and it got into the hockey news. The thing is sort of ironic about it is that next door neighbor didn't even know it was there. Yeah, someone way off would know where it was. There was interest. People had interest. And it really got much bigger than I ever thought it would. I thought I was just going to have a neighborhood rink. But as you do one thing, you have to do another. And then if you don't charge admission, people will come for a while and then they won't come because they feel like they're obligated. So I had to set up as a business. And it wasn't a money-making business by any stretch of the imagination. But it was fun. It was enjoyable. The one thing we got out of it is the kids who skated there become real good skaters. And we were invited all over the country to play in hockey games. And the thing that I never told the kids is we were invited a lot of places where I knew they were new rinks. And I knew that the kids were much better than they were. They had more experience. Such a congested amount of skating for the 3 months that we'd have skating. And so I never went to the rinks that I knew were just starting because they wouldn't be good caliber. We played the best kids around and did well against them. They could skate, and that was the big thing.
Now, you played and coached, right?
Well, yeah, my real playing sort of involved in a situation. A group of us got together when I think I was 27 years old, and just had a nice rink. And we got to playing down there, and finally we played a few teams. Come in and play there. It was pretty poor circumstances. There wasn't any boards and things like that.
Oh, really?
But it was, like the hockey rinks today.
Right.
But ice at that time was ice. You just wherever it was, you went.
So this was sort of a semi-pro type hockey?
Well, I really didn't start playing semi-pro until I went over to Erie. But I went up into Canada a couple times, and then I met some fellas up there, and I went in all the small rinks around Canada playing with these fellas. Instead of go around play different teams and
Sure.
such as that. And but when I played at Erie, then it was they paid me enough so I could pay for my gas going back and forth. That's about all they paid.
What did you play? What was your position?
Well, surprising enough, one time I started out playing center. The goalie had sort of a bad day. I played the second period goalie. In the third period, I played defense.
What's your highlight, John? You've done so much for so many in the world of hockey. What's the John Alm highlight?
Boy, you know, so much of it was really fun and enjoyable. It's really hard to pinpoint something. I think one time when Erie, later on when I had the kids skating in the barn so much, I didn't have time to go to Erie. So they would call me on special occasions. And this one time they called me up and I didn't know what for. And I went over there and they had lost about 3 of their defensemen with minor injuries. And I played the whole game, never left the ice. And the secret to it is hometown ice. John Mackey run the Zamboni, and we were good friends. He took a couple extra turns when they finished off the ice in between periods. I sort of talked to him about that. Oh no, I wouldn't do that. But he did. They gave me an extra breathing time.
You still have the rink at the barn?
Well, the barn is there,
right.
But the rink was it was good for kids up to 10, 11 years old.
Right.
And you wouldn't think it, but a congested area makes a strong skater. Because you have to get out of the way of a guy and you have to be able to move around. But it makes strong skaters out of them. You're always turning anyway.
Right.
So it was really good up to, like I say, 11 at the maximum. And but these kids were over 11, so I was probably the biggest booster for the rink in town.
Right.
I wanted it badly, and I was probably alienated myself because I was thinking of something like this, and then they got Ellen Park, which was open air recreation. Sides were open on it, bitter cold.
Oh.
It was cold. And actually Jim Sharp, the recreation director, had got all this information, and I'd go to city council meetings. I think the first one I went to, I was probably 17 years old or so. And I'd give the spew there about, you know, we needed a rink. We had to have a rink. You want to get on top of things and get one before everyone else does.
Sure.
And then we finally got Allen Park, and it was through the open air recreation. I had these things from Jim Sharp referring to the rinks in Boston, which were open air funded, and how they endured it for 1 year and then bought the government right out. Didn't want any more of that. Of course, Boston was worse than we are with
Sure.
that moist air up there. Just couldn't handle it. And so I talked for it until we got it, and then talked against it after that.
What do you think about this facility?
Oh boy, tops. Two things that to be a complainer, you got to complain. You know, two things. What they're doing with rinks like this is, one of them is usually a Olympic-sized rink, which means it's only 15 feet wider. And I would have liked to seen that. Now they say they didn't have room, but the only reason I would like to see it is then we could get back into speed skating. This short track speed skating works out better on more of an oval, you know, where you don't have such a narrow run up and down. And I'll tell you me, if you had a betting parlor and could bet on them, you'd make a fortune. It's I think the most exciting race of any type you can have, because you're on an awful slippery surface and you go many times around.
Yep.
It really makes a real fun race to watch.
Yeah, it sure does.
And they do so many things with it too. But I think that the wider rink is a better situation for them. And then they got to get an organ in there.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah, you can spice up a hockey game, something fierce with an organ.
This has been terrific, John.
Well,
Do you have
thank
a
you.
question, Steve? I'm just sort of cruising along.
No, Steve's doing fine.
John, about Pitt and Penn State.
Oh, we got to ask you about Pitt and Penn State. That's.
Hey, wait a minute, I went to Pitt, now you're talking about Pitt, John.
Well, you have a rebuttal. Let him talk first.
Right
Well-
on for dear old Pittsburgh.
Yeah, we had good relations with the other rinks around, like Erie Rink and such as that. And Bradford had this outdoor rink, and they had scheduled the game down there for Pitt to play Penn State, sort of equal between the two areas. And they lost their ice. So I got this call real early on Sunday morning and asked me if I had any ice. I said, yeah, I got some ice. So Pittman's been state, played a game on the ice.
No kidding, was that up at the bar?
Yeah.
Oh, man, on Flavanna.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Well, we played Gannon
That's quite a
and
story.
Edinburgh and different colleges there too.
Your team did?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, a group of fellas.
So this was really an all, honest to goodness, intercollegiate hockey game on Flavanna Avenue.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
That's
I heard a little bit of it, but I didn't hear the whole thing.
The thing that really was remarkable is we couldn't exchange ice with people. You know, like over the year, every time they'd have an opening, get us in, they'd call me up and I'd take the kids over. And we never paid for ice anywhere else. They just, it was always invited, and yet we couldn't return it. It was really sort of remarkable. And I thank them for it.
Good story. Love it.
Tell me about the picture out front there that they're going to dedicate. Where did that from your collection, Jen?
Well, that's at Enris Ice, Cole. I don't know if you knew there's a rink down there.
I do remember
Yeah,
that.
okay. Yeah. Well, that's where that was played, and the team we were playing was the Ottawa National Champions. Beat the daylights out of us.
That's why Don Averson was on the ice, right?
Yeah.
Remember Don.
Don was the only star, I think. Everyone else looked sort of pale.
In your travels up in Canada and playing with a variety of teams, did you ever come across playing with some of the NHL players who may have been, retired or anything like that?
Yeah, a lot of them.
Do you remember any name guys that?
Yeah, Harry Howell is
Yeah.
an extremely good player. And the first time I seen him was on Erie Ice. And he never had his skate straight up. He was always bent over. And I thought, geez, I can go around this guy like nothing. He looked like a kid standing there with his skates like this. It was like hitting a stump. Just bang. He was there. He'd just shuffle around and really skate. Several other players. Trying to think of one that used to be such a hit up the Buffalo there. I can't remember his name. But they drop in Erie. Most of the time it's in Erie. And then when I went up in Canada, we'd go around, but I never got to know the names of the guys that I play against. But I was playing with fellas from Fort Erie and Niagara Falls, Ontario. And I'd go up usually in the spring of the year, and then they'd get these games going all over. And we went to some places, Stanford, Ontario. Sort of a situation there when on the way up to Stanford, Ontario, my generator went out in my car I was driving. And I didn't know where the place was anyway. I was on the Queen E going west, or east, I guess. And I thought, well, I can't have the generator go out and my car won't run, so I had to turn my lights off. And I pulled in behind the semi, and thinking that I could follow behind. It was a real blustery night. You couldn't see much, and if I didn't have my lights on, someone would hit me, but they could see me behind the semi. Lo and behold, the constable was the next vehicle behind me. And he pulls me over and said, "What the hell are you doing?" And I told him what my conditions were. "Oh, okay, follow me up here." Took me up to this garage, took me up to Stanford, played the game. And when I was up there, I had a pretty good game. I seen him up in the crowd, started cheering away. And then I got out and took me back to my car.
Really?
Yeah.
It's Canadian national game.
Yeah. Pays sometimes.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you, John.
Well, I appreciate
For
it.
sharing that. That's terrific. We got so much talent here. Can we take a picture, Ken, with you with us all this talent here? Okay, Bob Hanson, welcome. And tell me about Bob Jackson. Let's get folks.
Bob
You met
Jackson.
Bob Jackson.
I grew up in Elmhurst, Flavanna,
Mhm.
and Bob Jackson had some friends that had summer home down in Elmhurst. And of course, when he came into town, why, all the Swedes in Elmhurst wanted to go over and shake hands with him. And my dad invited me along, so I wasn't very big, but I got to shake hands with him.
You should
That's
close.
about-
Go ahead.
That's about all I.
You close your eyes. What does he look like? Was he a tall guy, small guy? I mean, I have a hard time just even.
You know, I was a little guy, so he probably looked big. No, I really, you know, after that, I tell you the truth, I hardly knew him then, you know, but then as he progressed all through the years, why you couldn't help but follow him, and you know, all of a sudden, hey, I shook hands with that guy, you know.
Well, you did something I didn't do, so
Yeah.
congratulations.
Hmm.
Well, we're here to talk about you as a speed skater, but before you were a speed skater, how did you get involved in the hockey, or skating period? Did you,
Yeah.
is that something that you?
I was born and raised in Elmhurst, Savannah, and just off the lake, and that's in the years when we skated all over the lake, you know. For some unknown reason, we didn't have snow like we have now.
Mhm.
Yeah. So on a typical Saturday or Sunday afternoon, Louis Collins and some of them would have skate sail races, and it would be, remember, Beattie?
Sure
They'd
do.
be just loaded with white sails out there,
Mhm.
just like there are, you know, when they have a regatta in the summer.
Right.
And they sailed from Celeron over to Flavanna, up to Lakewood and back. And it was quite a thing. I still got
It was
2
great.
skate sails, yeah, but I haven't skate sailed for about 6 years because we never get good skatable ice on the lake, you know.
Well, describe it.
Describe skate sail?
Yeah,
Triangular,
right?
goes like that. It's got a horizontal and a vertical that you hold on to,
Right.
and you lean against the sail. Make sure the wind's coming that way. There's quite a bit of tacking you can do. You know, you can get darn near close to right straight across the wind from it.
Not sure I've ever seen it.
Oh yeah.
So this was a popular event on Chautauqua Lake, sponsored by Louis Collins?
Pretty much, yeah. Louis was, you know, he sponsored about everything in those days. There wasn't too many other sporting goods stores around. Lockwood's, I guess, was there, but Louis was active, no question, yeah. Everything we did. In fact, I won my first pair of skates. Louis donated them, a pair of planters, yeah.
When you skated those principally, or at least initially, on Chautauqua Lake?
Yeah, oh yeah. Lakewood had a rink that the fire department had for right up till the war years, I guess. And I don't know. We used to skate over there on a typical night. We'd skate over there and go on the rink and then skate around. I had an old buddy that introduced me into the sign business, Carl Beckstrand, and he had asthma and emphysema and that. But one of the things that he always told me was, in the old days, he played a French horn, I think it was, in an orchestra out there on the ice.
On the
Now,
ice?
you probably don't remember it, and I don't.
I don't really remember it, Bob. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. But, yeah, he used to tell me that. He said, be colder than the devil out there, you know. That's before they had recordings and stuff like that.
Were there places inland in the city of Jamestown at the time where there was skating?
Yeah, we always had Roseland, as far as I remember. Ever since I was 9, 10 years old, we had Roseland, the big rink at Roseland, which is, it was an 8-lap to the mile. Big track, yeah. The Morton Club, the fire department kind of initiated that. They kind of started that, you know, went out there and flooded it with their fire hoses, and then the city rec took it over a few years later. And at Roseland they had a fire hydrant right in the middle of where the Little League field is right now. And they had a house around it where a stove in there. The guys could go in and get warm.
Is that right?
Yeah. And of course, the early part of the year, we had a huge track. And then as snow came and they plowed and whatnot, the track got smaller and smaller, and it got so in February, we had trouble getting an official 8-lap track on there. Sometimes we squeezed it a little, you know. Some of the times weren't quite official.
Speed skating was the type of skating of choice for males at the time?
Male, female too.
And female.
Oh, yeah,
Just
yeah.
waiting a second.
Yeah.
But figure skating and hockey skating was not as prevalent?
Hockey wasn't that popular. They skated up there. Some of the old Swedes had a hockey team up at Lakewood, and they had boards that were probably only about that high around the perimeter of the hockey. But and they had a Swedish name for that. Not sure if they played it with a ball or not. can't think of the Swedish name for it, but a lot of the Swedes, you know, I put on more of an exhibition than anything.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. And that was the same really with figure skating. I mean, they've come an awful long way. With figure skating here, we had a girl by the name of from Little Valley.
I know who you mean, but.
Yeah. She used to come every time we'd have a meet or something. She'd come over and put on an exhibition of figure skating.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But I started in Elmhurst there. I was fortunate enough to have about 6 or 7 guys that we called it the Flavanna Speed Skating Club. And it was Hank Hendrickson and Jiggs and Howie Gain and Howie Berg and Wally Carlson. He was our city champion for quite a few years. And those guys all competed against each other, really, both at Lakewood and at Roseland. And we got to go to Cleveland, and we got to go to Erie, and even Salamanca had I had a speed skating team. Yeah, believe it or not. Yeah, had 2, 3 girls, 2, 3 guys. But that's how I got interested in speed skating. All these guys were around practicing out in front of my house pretty much. And I started out with hockey, or with hockey. I started out with high tops, leather high tops with clamp-on skates. You know, just like the old clamp-on roller skates. And of course, they wouldn't stay on, so then I ended up putting wire around them. And that's how really I got started. Then I had a cousin that she had a pair of racers, and I got a hold of them and put paper in the toes and whatnot. And had a guy that said, "Why don't you go down to it was either Roseland or Lakewood, I don't know, for my first meet." And I did pretty good. Got a second or a third and got excited. From then on, it was just gradually growing into it. But we always considered that in Jamestown we were the best, Buffalo we were the best, Cleveland we beat all those people, Erie we did. But as soon as you get out of your neighborhood a little ways and go to Schenectady or out to Detroit, and it's a different ball game, you realize you ain't so good, you know.
Well, talk about the picture that's out there that they're going to dedicate, of which you're part of. In fact,
Yeah.
you're leading at that point of the picture was taken.
I didn't win that race. I think I came in third, but I always had a good start, you know. I could beat anyone on the start, but that was in 46, yeah. And we had some good competitors that year. We had Bob Hackenbach that was on the Olympic team, and we had Dick Dose from Cleveland, and 2, 3 boys from Rochester. Anthony Calipari was there. We had George Croyer. He speed skated out of Buffalo, but that wasn't his hometown. He was working at Wright Aircraft at the time, and he was also a barrel jumper, and he barrel jumped in, you know, Ice Follies or Capades for a year or 2. Nice guy, you know. So we had good competition. You know?
Well, you had good success. What was your highlight, Bob?
Oh, I don't know. Beattie and I used to go every year with Dick Sherman to Schenectady, and they had the New York State Championships there. And we'd get a second or a third. And Beattie at one time, she tied with a girl for first, and I think they had a skate off. And seems though she got beat, I'm not sure. But that was about the closest we came to being New York State champions. And I got a third in the North Americans in Schenectady, and that was probably the best medal I probably ever got. But it was against some good competition, but I think a couple of them spilled or something, and I snuck in there, so it felt pretty good.
We're going to segue right over to Beattie since he was talking about you.
Yeah.
How did you get started in this
How did I get started? Well, there are 6 children in our family, 4 girls and 2 boys, and they started first and started racing at the Lakewood rink and went on to Buffalo. And then my one sister decided to take up figure skating, and that was Jeanette. And other than that, I was going to say we had all the facilities we needed in Lakewood. We were delighted with the old Lakewood rink with a pot-belly stove, and it was wonderful. And then I did skate at Roseland a lot, too. But it was a very inexpensive sport, and so our whole family could afford it. And it was nice. Occasionally I had to sneak in, but I got in all right. And when I was a little tot, I think I started skating when I was 5 or 6 years old. And I can describe the skates. They were the double runner, little metal skates. What are they, Bob? They hook on your shoes.
Yep.
And they were kind of fun. But I did that mainly because I was a little tot with 5 other members of my family, and I didn't want to be left behind. So we started and participated in the Lakewood events. They used to have them every single week, Friday night. And for the awards, they'd give a box of candy or give a lamp. My mother got so tired of candy and lamps and so forth, but it was a fun thing to do.
So it was a skating competition?
Oh, it was wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. And also, it was just great to go to some of these meets, and Bob has spoken of that.
You were part of a team?
Well, Bob and I were the team, right?
In the later years, yeah.
He was my partner.
But of course, earlier, you know,
We had the
you
flute band.
you had quite a few over there too.
Yes,
you know,
we did.
Your brother Joe and
Joe.
Harry and all those guys. Yeah.
Yes, they did a lot of skating, and my brother went up to Lake Placid, that would be Harry, and skated with one of the foremost, who would it be?
Jack Shea.
Jack Shea, Olympic skater. And I took the circuit like Bob. We did Syracuse, we did Rochester, we did Buffalo, outside of Cleveland, Ohio. And it was wonderful living, wonderful life. And I'm just sorry we can't get back, well, now with this beautiful arena, I think they will get back into it. We depended on the weather, but we always had cold weather in those days.
That's right.
And I think now we're getting a repetition of it.
When you skated the circuit, were these weekend events that they would have?
Mainly. And Dick Sherman was the one. He was with the handlebar mustache.
I was going to ask about that. Yeah.
He took us to many, many meets. We stayed in Schenectady and the New York State and the, what was the other one, North American, Bob?
Yeah.
North American meet. And for the fun of it, I tossed a couple of medals in my bag there and tossed my skates in and my shirt, my skating shirt, and all moth-eaten, but it's there. It was fun. It was wonderful. And my whole family participated. However, my mother and dad never skated. And they were from Sweden, but the kids skated. And we had a lot of skaters stay at our home, like Kit Klein, who was one of the foremost. Thank you, Ken. One of the. It's all.
Yeah, let's bring that right in here right now.
It's filled with mothballs.
It must have shrunk a little, huh?
It did, or else something happened to me. Yeah, I dug this out this morning.
Wow.
Anyway, that's it.
Now, what was an event? Tell me about when you went on and you spent a weekend at Cleveland or Erie. What was an event? I mean, Bob, events? I mean, were there various, the 800, the mile, was there?
Yeah, we had.
Hello, can I have everyone's attention, please? We're going to conduct some tours prior to everything kicking off with the festivities. Wanda from our...
So tell me about an event.
We had, like I said, it was an 8 laps to the mile at Roseland. Some of the other big meets, they had 6 laps to the mile, but 8 laps to the mile, you had a 220, which is 1 complete, 442, 880, 4, and the mile was 8. And you had to compete in every event.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then plus we had 3 mile at the end, not the young kids, but the seniors in particular. They had a 3 mile and sometimes a 5 mile, which was they still have it too. They still have it.
Were these team events? I mean,
No, not really. No, not a team event. Pretty much individual. Yeah.
Were these all done and conducted on over 2 days or 1 day?
Yeah, 2 days.
2 days.
Yeah, Saturday and Sunday.
I'm exhausted by you just explaining that.
Yeah.
It was wonderful skating, wonderful.
All right, Beattie, what was your highlight here?
What was my highlight in skating?
Aside from hanging around with Bob.
Bob, my buddy here. Well, I can't tell you. I think it was pretty exciting to go to Schenectady and skate in the New York championships and also the North Americans. And I would say that was probably the highlight. The other thing that I thoroughly enjoyed, I went to school up in Plattsburgh, so I was able to skate Lake Placid, Plattsburgh, but I was able to help small children start skating, and I think I like that as much as anything. It was fun. But we had great times, and apparently this rink is going to bring back some of those great times. Do you think so, Bob?
Yeah.
We'll still be skating, you
It's,
think?
know, indoor speed skating is a different sport. It's a difference between roller skating and ice skating, really. Yeah. The skates are different. The techniques are entirely different. And, it's fun to watch, but I wouldn't try to skate it.
Do you watch the Olympics now?
Oh yeah. I went to the 1980 Olympics when.
Lake Placid.
Oh yeah, when Eric won 5 gold medals when I was at that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anything else for the good of the cause that the Post-Journal would love to have?
Oh.
No, thank you. You're doing fine.
So much pressure.
No, I think, the Olympic skaters were here, Kit Klein among them, and she stayed with my family. And as a matter of fact, we stayed in touch with Kit Klein for many years, and she was in my wedding when I got married when? 1956, I think. She came in from Pennsylvania, Elizabethtown. And she was wonderful to my family and to everybody around here. You knew her, Bob. I think you knew her.
Yeah.
Did you?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
No, I didn't. No.
But she put on exhibitions, and many of the Buffalo skaters, who later went on to big skating, they put on exhibitions, as well as we had Canadian skaters also. Of course, the skating arrived, speed skating, I think it was about 1840. It was in Europe first, which everybody probably knows. Also in Sweden, and then it came over to North America, and it caught on like wildfire. And people were starting to buy long skates. I have mine back in the bag there, just so people can see what the racers are. It was fun, and the Canadians were marvelous skaters too. But it was a joy to participate with the international people and everybody who came. Good time. And I'm delighted for this wonderful, wonderful place to skate. I skated here last week. It was super.
Well, thank you. You guys have been wonderful. I appreciate it. Talk about your daughters. Be a proud papa here for a second.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I had Sonia and Sally who speed skated, and I started the Jamestown Speed Skating Club up at Allen Park. That was before we had the indoor rink. We had the tennis courts up there. And they went to probably more meets than I ever did, I'm sure. Yeah. But they went to Placid and Saranac and Saratoga and Newburgh and Detroit, and we even got out to St. Paul for the nationals out there. But we had a good time. Yeah. For 4 or 5 years, I guess it was, that we had that team going. We had a big tent, and I made a big banner that said Jamestown Speed Skating Club on Chautauqua Lake. And we got pretty good publicity. In fact, I met a guy in Cleveland once, and he come over. He was an old timer, and he said, "Did you ever know anyone by the name of Charlie Jacobson?" I said, He used to be sharpen all our skates, and he was the starter at all our meets and whatnot." He said, "Well, I skated against him in the old rink in Solron Park. This was an indoor." Have you ever heard about that rink?
No.
No? Oh, yeah. This is not artificial ice, but what they had was a small track, and it was undercover. And during spring and fall, when they had ice, if it got real warm, they'd put sawdust down, just like they do in Canada still, for to hold ice. You know, they go out and cut ice in the wintertime, yeah, and put it in sawdust. And they'd do that, and then at night they'd scrape it off. And they also had some sort of either canvas or what kind around the outside, so during the day they'd drop that down. If you've ever been in a barn, you know, it stays cooler. It really does. And yeah, well, that's where, I'm trying to think of the little guy's name. Very interesting, yeah. And I met another old timer in Newburgh, and he come over and talked to me, and he said when he was a kid, they used to skate across the Hudson River after 11:30, I think it was, at night, because the last icebreaker went up through there, 11 or so, and of course it was when we had cold weather, you know. And when that ice, when they froze, they got cold enough so it froze and they skated across it. You know, that was a big thrill for them people, you know.
Sure.
Skate through thin ice, just like John was telling about when we were kids. And the earliest I ever skated on the lake was Thanksgiving, and it only lasted till about noon. And after that, you could see pop holes all over where everybody fell in. You know, I mean, we weren't out over our head, so it really wasn't nothing to it to fall in. Our parents didn't like it, but you know, that's the earliest I ever skated on the lake.
Thank you.